We're live.
Good morning. Welcome to our agenda for our Budget Committee for Wednesday, November 24th, 2021. I'd like to call this meeting to order at this time and ask if there's any declaration of interest. Seeing none, I will move to item C, deputations. Madam Clerk, do we have any deputants today?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we do not have an official deputant on the for today's meeting. However, late afternoon yesterday, we received a request from a member of the public, Ms. Sanderson, to seek Council's permission and be added to today's agenda under item D3. Ms. Sanderson had expressed an interest to be able to listen to the presentation and deliberation and perhaps be able to provide some comments following Council's deliberation. So if you wish to permit this particular registered speaker, what we can do is assist in terms of enabling the participant status for the individual.
Thank you. Any objections from members of council for our deputant at the appropriate time? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you can make it happen for us, that would be very much appreciated.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you, and we will move on to item D on our agenda, and that's presentations. The first one is a community group presentation, Roots Connecting Communities.
Good morning. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. So thank you, Madam Mayor, Town Council, and staff. My name is Niv, and I presented to you on behalf of Roots for the first time back in January. And I'm here again, but this time I'm 8 months pregnant. So I apologize if I just need a little more air than normal to breathe. And firstly, I just want to extend my gratitude for the funds for 2021. You're all familiar with Roots, an organization that is 32 years old and known for providing volunteer-run transportation services to residents experiencing challenges. Next slide. I call this social transportation. Are we able to? Yeah, thank you. We provide a ride, but also peer support, a listening ear, mentorship, and social connection. We're still that, but so much more. In just 9 months, we've provided 644 rides to 46 East Gwillimbury residents experiencing social, physical, mental, and financial barriers to traditional transportation methods. We have 11 volunteers from East Gwillimbury providing transportation, deliveries, and friendly calls to residents in need of social connections. Next slide. One East Gwillimbury resident, I'll call her Samantha, is a senior living alone. She has advanced cancer and had her voice box removed. She does not drive and has a fairly low income. She has no family nearby, and due to the voice box removal, is unable to call and book rides nor request help. She required weekly and daily trips to her various medical and specialist appointments. As you know, through the pandemic, appointments and schedules were constantly changing. So we coordinated with Samantha's daughter and the hospital to always get her most recent appointment schedule, supporting Samantha, who had enough to deal with. When it was time for her chemotherapy, there was always a car waiting for her, so she could focus on finding the inner strength to focus on her recovery and not on how she would get to and from her appointments. Next slide. In 2021, we also started an intergenerational technology learning program matching youth tech experts with seniors. Seniors could ask whatever technology-related questions they wanted, and the youth would help them. We also continued to work with partner organizations, including Country Living and Blue Door Shelters. I will say that I've been pretty wrong about 2021. I thought that we would be well into COVID-19 recovery mode. But the truth is, community members are still fighting through a challenging pandemic year. We saw an increase in people requesting friendly calls due to continued social isolation and the need for deliveries for people who are physically unable to leave their homes or financially impacted by the pandemic. Our request for 2022 will not only continue to provide free and subsidized transportation, deliveries, and social connections through the Friendly Calls program. We would also like to focus 2022 on increased outreach and community engagement in East Gwillimbury. Many residents lost their social connections and programs through the pandemic. Recovery will require enhanced outreach and community engagement to ensure community members know of the available services and how to get involved. We know that recovery will take time and will manifest in various forms depending on the individual journey. Roots looks forward to continuing to support and work with East Gwillimbury residents as we move on in 2022. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nev. I was just thinking back, not that long ago, a few years ago, we had you present, and it was something new to us. And now you're not new to us by any means. I'm sure that I'm not the only one member of council who has heard from residents on how important Roots have been this last year and a half to our, particularly our rural community. So thank you so much. You've truly made a difference in some pretty tough times. So we appreciate that very much. Are there questions for Niv from members of council? I'm not seeing any. Thank you. Very, very complete presentation. I have a resolution. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Be it resolved that the presentation made by Roots Connecting Communities regarding 2022 funding request be received. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Persicini, Councillor Morton, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, and all the best with your new baby.
Thank you very much.
We'll be waiting to hear.
You will see me next year.
Thank you. Hope we hear before that about your baby.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next presentation that we have is our advisory committee presentation for Arts and Culture Advisory Board. And I think Ms. Champ is with us, who is the chair of this committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council, town staff. I'm here to support our request for budget funding for the 2022 fiscal year. I have submitted in writing a memorandum describing our use of funds, and I'm here to questions or concerns that the council members have regarding our submission.
Thank you. You have been busy. There's no doubt we know what the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee are doing in our community for sure. Questions for Ms. Champ? I'm not seeing any. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Roy DeClemente, Councillor Crone, be it resolved that the presentation made by Jade Champ, Chair Arts and Culture Advisory Committee regarding the committee's budget request for 2022 be received. All those in favor? And that's carried. Nice to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Our third item is the East Gwillimbury Public Library and Library Services of Budget 2022. And I'm wondering if, now, I know we have a member, I believe, speaking to this.
Yes, Madam Mayor, our board chair will kick us off.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Sorry for that. Good morning, Madam Mayor, members of council. My name is Diana Robichaud, and I am the chair of the East Gwillimbury Public Library Board. Today, we are pleased to present you with East Gwillimbury Public Library's 2022 proposed budget. Next slide, please. The East Gwillimbury Public Library is proud of the achievements of 2021 and our staff who again navigated the very shifting rules and regulations due to the COVID-19 pandemic to keep the library open while still operating safely. We're proud of the support and collaboration we share with municipal council and staff, and we believe we're all working towards the same goals. On the surface, this may seem like an excitingly uneventful budget with no major projects or staff requests for 2022. However, in fact, it's potentially a budget that will have the greatest impact to our community. with our request to council to permanently remove fines for overdue materials. Fines for overdue materials were suspended by the Library Board in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, with council approving the pilot project to continue in 2021. That had the removal of $9,000 from fine revenue. During this time, AGPL monitored the impact of the removal of those fines, and the Library Board agreed that the increased positive library user experience outweighed the small revenue amount. We would like to close the book on overdue fines and start a new library story in 2022, one that encourages use without penalties. We want to change the public perception of public libraries as a place where you're inspired to check out a book and not face a barrier. East Gwillimbury Public Library is the community's destination for inspiring learning, discovery, and connections. And at the library, you'll find that you belong. I will now turn it over to our CEO, Monica Mahachek, to walk council through our key accomplishments from 2021. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Diana. Good morning, Madam Mayor, members of council. My name is Monica Mahachek, and I'm the CEO at the East Gwillimbury Public Library. 2021 was a year of resilience, perseverance, and optimism. While the library operated in a mandated closure for 17 weeks and reopened to near normal hours in mid-year, we met new reality demands by offering modified service, including curbside pickup, mobile printing, virtual one-on-one tech help, and book bundles, a service that lets our librarians choose what you'll read next. This year, the library launched a juvenile multilingual collection with Chinese language material seeing the highest circulation. We also got more creative and launched several special interest items, such as Ontario Park Passes, a school success collection, light therapy lamps, and sensory kits, tactile items that support early literacy development and provide individuals on the autism spectrum with the opportunity to explore shapes, colors, textures, and counting while using their senses. These items have only been available for a few weeks, and checkouts demonstrate very positive use. As part of the modernization program with the town of East Gwillimbury, the library launched its new library lockers in August, available at the East Gwillimbury Sports Complex. The first of its kind in York Region, the lockers provide a convenient way for residents to pick up their holds and bestsellers and return items right in their neighborhood. The innovative library lockers respond to the need for convenient and flexible services in an increasingly busy community. In July, we welcomed the return of in-person programming for the first time in 15 months. Throughout the summer, we offered highly engaging programs outdoors and on the East Gwillimbury trails. We partnered with the town to offer several innovative programs, including story walks, book fairies, the QR code local history tour, to connect our residents and offer interactive experiences beyond the library's walls. Additionally, we ran our monthly food pantry, hosted virtual author visits at local schools, offered valuable one-on-one vaccine booking support and free printing for vaccine receipts, introduced self-service printing, and launched a seed library in partnership with the East Gwillimbury Gardeners. We will finish the year by offering our popular Book Advent Calendar program, which has already received over 100 registration requests. Despite the challenges of 2021, the library continued to create meaningful experiences for everyone in EG. Next slide, please. As expected, print circulation was greatly affected by the closures early in the year. However, digital resources continue to see high use, a consistent pattern over the past 20 months. Although digital resource popularity has been rising steadily over the past number of years, we continue to see significant increases this year compared to pre-pandemic. With the library reopening mid-year, usage of the physical collection saw a 21% increase over 2020. Additionally, this year, usage of our physical collections surpassed digital collections, another sign that increased open hours and access correlate with the use of our physical material. Overall, the community has shown keen interest in borrowing books, kits, and technology, no matter the circumstance, and we continue to transform our collection to support the needs, interests, and abilities of all. The number of active cardholders, those who have used their card in the past 2 years, dropped in 2021. While it is disappointing to see active cardholders decrease, We have observed that in-person card registration has increased since we have resumed near normal hours of operation. Between July and September, staff registered more than 300 new library cards, and in total, we have registered over 950 new members this year. At this rate, we expect to return to pre-pandemic membership levels in 2022. The library offered a hybrid of virtual and in-person programs. As you can see, program levels are still lower than pre-pandemic years. However, growth is steady and continues to trend upward. With the resumption of many beloved community events, the library had a presence outdoors at the farmers market and on the trails. Students returned to school in September, and school outreach is seeing significant demand. Our one-on-one tech help sessions play an important role in building digital literacy skills, and we had over 215 sessions this year. We are ending the year with optimism as usage continues to climb, and we anticipate our metrics will continue to increase in 2022. Next slide, please. Our borrowing trends mirror the interest of our community. This year, our most popular collections show that residents use the library for learning, for entertainment, and for families to read together. It is interesting to note that several of the top titles are our book club titles, which shows that people read stories to feel connected to others. These books often spark conversation, deep thinking, and bring people together. For several years now, the hotspots have kept the highest turnover rate in our collection. This year, we had a close runner-up that we wanted to mention. We began offering Ontario Park permits, which offer customers day use for one car at any Ontario park, which now have the second highest turnover rate. The ongoing demand for special collections provide people with access to experiences and knowledge regardless of income. Next slide, please. It is anticipated that 2022 will resemble a more typical year of library operations as we hopefully come out of the pandemic and society resumes a regular rhythm. We will monitor and observe how library use has changed as a result of COVID-19 to better plan for the future of library services. Our first priority is to expand digital literacy outreach, a key function of our services over the past 2 years, and participate in community events and reinforce our partnerships once again. In 2019, we reached around 3,000 community members through outreach, and currently this year we have reached 504. Over the past 2 years, we have seen how vital access to technology and technology skills is, and by reaching out to the community, we can spread awareness of the services available at their local library. Our second is to review our programs and collections through the lens of diversity and inclusion, examine best industry practices, and develop a strategy to move forward. Again, over the past 2 years, through awareness by the Black Lives Matter movement and the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, librarians and libraries have started to take a deeper dive into our responsibility for ensuring inclusivity through our program offerings and access to the books on our shelves. We will consult with community groups, town departments, and the Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Committee for alignment on municipal goals. And finally, we are focused on increasing our membership. As previously stated, library membership was on the rise in 2018 and 2019, but in 2020 and 2021, we have seen a decline, which is not altogether unsurprising. As we resume indoor programming, encourage in-person library use, expand community capacity limits and community outreaches, we will extend our reach into the community to increase our membership. Next slide, please. At first glance, this library budget can seem uneventful. However, it is arguably the most important budget that we have presented to Council, and one that will have a great impact on the community and the perceptions of the public library. On page 343 of the digital budget binder package, you will find a report submitted by Library Management to the Library Board outlining our analysis and recommendation to remove fees for overdue materials. The movement in North American public libraries to go fines free started several years ago, but it accelerated in 2020 as most library boards in Ontario and Canada removed overdue fines as part of their COVID-19 response to remove barriers in accessing library services. with many municipalities making the change permanent this year. When we dig deeper and consider what the public perception of libraries is, I wonder if this comes to mind. Next slide, please. A little bit of humor. Perhaps it's Mr. Bookman on that Seinfeld episode who finds Jerry for his overdue book from 1971. Next slide, please. Pop culture history depicts libraries as places with punitive punishments and that librarians are unforgiving and never forget delinquent customers. While here in EG, we certainly did not go door to door looking to recover fines, we would, however, block cards with overdues and negotiate with customers to reduce their fines enough to be able to access materials. This is standard industry library practice. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we temporarily suspended fines on overdue materials to remove this barrier. And over the past 2 years, we have analyzed the data and have understood that the system of fines does not greatly encourage users to return books on time. Only approximately 1% of our books are historically overdue. As well, fines perpetuate the economic inequity of print versus digital users. Consider a person with access to the internet at home who has their own iPad or reader can borrow an ebook and never get a fine. This is because ebooks automatically expire, therefore there are no fines. Then consider a person who cannot afford internet at home or their own iPad, and they borrow a book from the library and it is returned late. And then they have to negotiate with the librarian to lower their fine so they can check out more books. That does not inspire our community to feel like they belong. Staff members have been surveyed, and overwhelmingly, they say that the removal of fines have created exceptionally positive experiences when a user is told that there are no late fees on their account. As significant circulation gains continue to be with digital material, we actually would not see a significant increase in fine revenue until the help opens, as digital materials do not carry fines. In our analysis, we also considered the staff time spent on collecting and negotiating with customers and the negative experience that carries. In 2018, we collected $8,875 in fines, and in 2019, we collected $8,919. We are asking Council to respectfully close the book on fines for overdue materials and permanently remove $9,000 from the library revenue line. The library will continue to collect fees for lost and damaged materials and explore ways for revenue for services such as 3D printing, Cricut cutting, and having a donation box in lieu of fines, which will go into our revenue line. The impacts of eliminating fines can include growth in active card holders, as we will market this as we look to expand a membership. We will create an inclusive library system and positive customer experiences that can lead to lifelong use, increased use by teachers, students, childcare providers, and reducing staff time spent on processing fines, and instead use that time to build a stronger community. Next slide, please. We will now move into the library services budget. Madam Mayor, I will first review the operating budget. I will pause for questions, and then I will move into our capital program. Next slide, please. The Library 2022 operating budget is on page 88 of your binder, 78 of the digital binder, and it has two significant features. The first is the removal of $24,000 from our salary line and moving it to the municipality to administer the library's finances. Historically, EGPL has administered our finances internally with one FTE who also administered our payroll, administration, benefits, OMERS, and assisted the library board. As such, the library has not had a subject specialist in accounting. By moving our finances and payroll to the town, the library will be provided with a greater level of service and support in financial administration and financial processes, and will permit for internal library operational and administrative improvements. This model of the municipality administering library finances is common. It's responsible and it's very successful in small to medium-sized libraries. As well, the majority of the N6 libraries have their finances and payroll administered by their municipality. The library will maintain a position to support the library and library board operations and administration, and support in the coordination with the municipality. With the removal of this amount, we are seeing a 3% increase over 2021 for salary step increases and increases associated with benefits. We are seeing smaller increases in the courier and mail processing budget due to an increase from our interbranch courier, equipment costs for lease agreements for our public and staff photocopiers, facility costs, which is the charge from the municipality for our library leases, and there is a corresponding revenue line in the CPRC budget, and increased costs in our operating budget. We have reduced the contingency in our budget lines to mitigate these increases. The second significant feature is under user fees revenues, with the amount frozen at 2021 levels, which accounts for the removal of library overdue fees. We have also increased our grant revenue as we intend to apply for more operating grants in 2022. With these changes, the library budget is increasing by approximately $65,000 or 3% over 2021. Before I move into our capital programs, are there any questions?
Thank you, Monica. Questions for either Monica or Diane? I'm not seeing any at this time. Thank you. Continue along, please.
Thank you. Next slide, please. The library has two current capital projects that will remain open in 2022. The Mount Albert branch renovation was slated to be completed in December of this year. However, due to supply and labor shortages, we were recently notified of a delay, and we anticipate the completion of the installation of the study rooms will be completed in Q1 2022. The library master plan was delayed in 2020 and in 2021 due to the pandemic. However, the study is now underway, and we anticipate completion and a presentation to council in Q3 of next year. Next slide, please. The library has three new capital requests for 2022. The first is a joint project with CPRC. Sorry, next slide, please.
I think actually it's the previous slide that you want, Monica.
Oh, sorry. Thank
Yeah.
you. The library has three new capital requests for 2022. The first is a joint project with CPRC to install access cards or key fobs, which is on page 129 of your binder, 123 of the digital binder, for Hall, Netting, and Ross for a total of $20,000, 10 from the library capital reserve and 10 from the general capital reserve. The two facilities are secured by key lock access. Town and library staff are provided with keys and a security code to access the facilities. This allows staff with keys to access the buildings 24/7. Installing an access card system ensures access control is managed. Facility access can simply be disabled when keys are lost and when staff members leave the organization. Implementing access cards is commonplace for workplaces and will greatly improve access control for building security, as cards can be programmed to allow staff access only between certain hours. The second request is an annual request to fund our physical collection on pages 128 and 131 of your physical binder and 121 and 125 of your digital binder. The library's physical books and AV are funded through an annual capital program through the tax levy. The growth in library collections is funded through library development charges. The materials budget is used to replace older collection items and to ensure the total inventory is current. As the library is resuming near normal operations, and along with the close to 4% growth we saw in 2021 and increasing demand for digital resources, the library is requesting the use of development charges to meet the demand that is anticipated in 2022. Increased use means the library will also need to purchase more copies of items to maintain our hold ratio, and also that books will need to be replaced sooner due to natural wear and tear. The library is requesting the base amount of $94,760 from the tax levy and $7,500 from the library development charges community contributions. Finally, the library is requesting the use of $10,500 from the library capital reserve for IT replacement. This is on page 126 of your binder and 119 of the digital binder. These funds are requested annually to maintain EGPL's IT infrastructure as per our replacement schedule. The library is intending to replace end-of-life hotspots and staff workstations in 2022. Not maintaining IT equipment on a regular basis will cause equipment to become outdated and increases the risk for unexpected system failures. Are there any questions on our capital programs?
Questions? I'm not seeing any at this time.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Monica, I'm not sure if you're able to see, but it is on open capital projects,
I think there's one more slide after that.
the contacts and questions.
Yes, thank you. On behalf of the East Gwillimbury Public Library Board, thank you for receiving and considering our budget request.
Thank you very much. Questions from members of council? I'm not seeing any. Oh, there we go. Councillor Roy DeClemente, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to speak in support of the budget. I think members of Budget Committee will see that it's a relatively streamlined, very simple budget that will set us in good spot for the year to come and to prepare us for the new branch being built in Queensville. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions from members of council? I'd like to thank the library board and all of your staff. Monica, you were very nimble in moving things quickly for our community, and in particular, a number of older adults who might not have been quite as computer savvy that were really in a bind in trying to get their vaccinations scheduled. And I know I have heard from several, and I'm sure that other members of council did as well, at how easy it was to work with the library, and the anxiety that some of them had was disappeared almost immediately with working with the library board. So, the library staff. So thank you so much, and please pass along our thanks to staff as well. It's been interesting times, and you've been able to provide excellent service to our community when they needed library services probably more now than ever. So thank you very much. I'm not seeing any other comments. Madam Clerk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I have prepared a draft resolution for council's consideration following the library presentation.
Be it resolved that the East Goldenberry Public Library Library Services 2022 proposed business plan and budget presentation and review be received, and that the East Goldenberry Public Library Library Services 2022 proposed tax-supported operating budget be approved in principle, and that the 2022 new capital program East Goldenberry Public Library Library Services be approved in principle as follows. And I'm hoping that everyone can see that. Councillor Roy DeClemente, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to move that. I'd also like to suggest an amendment to that, which would be that council support the library board's recommendation that the EGPL be permanently fines free.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this motion? So this would be moved by Councillor Roy DeClemente and seconded by Councillor Persicini. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, ladies. With that, I know that we have a deputant that is in the wings, I believe. So I will ask at this time that I believe it's audio only. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's correct. We do have Ms. Sanderson online right now, and I believe if you just give us 1 second. There, she is on the call right now. So Ms. Sanderson, are you able to say hello?
Yes, Mrs. Sanderson is here. I just want to, one thing I wanted to say was I've definitely missed the mayor and councilors in the council chambers since 2019. Well, since March of 2020. So it was good to hear your voices this morning. I wanted to ask, because I presume most people do not listen to your meetings through the telephone, I found that the people really speak quick. And I missed in 2018 for the fines, it was 8,000 and what?
Over 8,000.
Well, I know 2018 and 2019 was over 8,000, but I didn't catch the exact number.
I'm not sure that I didn't make a note of it myself. If any members of council made a note of it. Oh, there's Monica. Go ahead. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you. For 2018, it was, I'm just pulling it up right here. Pardon me. 8,875 in 2018, and 2019 it was $8,919.
I got the 2019. Thank you, Monica. The other question I wanted to ask was the lockers that you started in August of 2021. Are you finding that you need to add more now for 2022, or has the pilot project been like you've been happy with what you have right now?
In terms of the library lockers, we're very pleased with what we have right now. It is a service that we are going to monitor the use over the next few years and see if there are other opportunities in the community to install them. But currently, the ones that are installed are enough for us, and they are seeing use.
Oh, good. I want to say that I was very impressed with your comments today, both the board chair and the CAO. It was an excellent job. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's wonderful to hear your voice, Gail. I expect that you've been well, and we're looking forward to. No. Well, let's hope there's better days ahead then. And we look forward to getting back into our council chamber and seeing your face in our audience.
Can I make a comment? I was very impressed when I saw that you have a few hundred people observing you during your council times. That in December was 197 in 2020. I was kind of that there wasn't more than 40 to 50 on the average listening to you guys. It's very educational when I went into the council chambers to listen to staff and yourself, and I was hoping to see higher numbers, but there's always 2022. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Keep well. Good to hear from you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Councillor Roy DiClemente, go ahead, please.
Just move to receive the deputation from Ms. Sanderson, please.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Crone. All those in favor? And that's carried. Great to hear from Gail. That's wonderful. We are on item E, and that's 2022 proposed business plan and budget review of the budget updates and supplemental information. So we'll call on staff for that.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, members of committee. We left off our session on Monday, about to go through the Office of the CAO's budget. Before we do that, I just wanted to bring to committee's attention the addendum package that we sent out late last night with some additional information that was requested by committee on Monday, and a couple of corrections to one of the capital projects and the reserve continuity schedule. So I just wanted to raise that for a committee. And with that, we can go through the Office of the CAO's budget, and I'll turn it over to CAO Webster to step through his budget, which is on printed page 17 in your binder and page 15 if you're following electronically.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Treasurer Marshall, and good morning to Mayor, members of council, and others with us this session. So we will reinitiate the deliberations today with regards to town programs. Just want to take a minute to reflect on the organization chart. I think one of the things that we've been very proud about over the past years is our modest staffing levels, and we've done a great job of providing cost-effective programs and services. You can see that the evolution of the organizational chart. My direct office has 6 employees, 2 directly with myself and an executive assistant support, and approximately 56% of our office budget is comprised of our human resources and organization development branch. Importantly, we've evolved and we have a deputy CAO, corporate services, and that has been a vital role and continues to be with regards to 2 key important elements: the oversight and leadership of our COVID first management and now the recovery program, and secondly, our business transformation and modernization agenda. And as we move down the chart, you can see the library is an indirect report. We meet with the library chair, CAO, and council liaison, myself and the deputy, on a regular basis, and we try to get out at least annually to the library board meeting to overview town operations priorities, and usually it's aligned with our budget and business plan. There's 6 departmental areas, and as I say, over the years they've evolved. We try to conduct regular reviews of each of the areas so that to ensure that we're not only doing the right things, but we're doing things right, and we ensure that we're always monitoring best practices and other elements in the municipal sector. Next slide, please. Priorities and objectives. This slide happens to have my office on it, but the way that again we've developed our program is council has a strategic plan that was adopted in 2019 that guides us. It's made of 4 core areas. I did explain that these priorities here are actually the council corporate priorities, and we had a discussion at the outset of the process. It was noted that environmental initiatives have to be see a higher priority, and we are committed to bringing a further report to council December 7th. We did have an update on environmental initiatives a few months back, and we were asked to come back with a rescope process, and that is our intention. We have a sub team working on that and are looking forward to bringing back to council some enhancements in our environmental approaches and priorities. Next slide, please. We can continue on. Human resources has its own priorities and objectives. I might ask Ms. Collette to now speak to that sub-branch's specific initiatives, and if she could maybe provide some highlights of some of our key human resources organization development initiatives for 2022.
Right. Thank you. Good morning, Madam Mayor, members of council, staff, and our residents that are attending. meeting this morning. Thank you, CAO Webster. Very happy to be here this morning to speak to some highlights of our key priorities and initiatives going forward in 2022. With respect to culture of municipal excellence, we're going to continue with our very exciting CAO internship program. As I know, we've presented to council this year that we have some really exciting projects happening. And I myself in our HR area, we have Ray. He's working with us on a performance management, enhancing our performance management program. And so we look forward to sharing that with council in the coming year, and as well as all our other exciting CAO internship projects, because I know they're working diligently and getting all those ready. As well, we're going to be looking at launching an employee engagement survey later next year. So we're really excited about some of those initiatives. You can see all the other ones listed there under Culture of Municipal Excellence. Those are just a couple highlights I wanted to bring to your attention. With respect to quality programs and services, we're continuing to work with our committees and staff on our town's accessibility program, and looking forward to presenting that to council in the new year with some updated information and our plans. As well, working with our collaboration with our N6 partners. We've been this year having programs and services online, and we look forward to continuing that partnership with respect to learning and development and other initiatives going into 2022. Under responsible growth and environmental protection, we're continuing the HR team. We have health and safety under our portfolio and work with all our employees to ensure that our workplace is health and safety. And wellness is a very important initiative. As you know, we've held many programs this year during this unprecedented time to make sure staff are well and that mental health is on the forefront. We will actually be implementing a WSI excellence program that brings efficiencies and cost savings to the municipality. And again, we look forward to sharing all that good information with council and staff in the new year. And just to wrap it up, under priorities, we look to build and complete our communities through a continuation of working together in a collaborative manner and sharing and learning as we move forward into 2022. So next slide, please. So CAO Webster, I'll continue with speaking to the graphics here. The ones I'd like to highlight are the corporate training. As you can see, that did increase in 2021, and that's with respect to bringing on exciting programs with respect to diversity, inclusion, mental health, and continuing to support our staff as we've been working through the pandemic and the ever-changing landscape by providing support and training to our staff. As well, employee turnover, and I know I've discussed this with council and it's indicative across organizations and that folks are making decisions, and we've seen a bit of, you'll see that's up a bit, our employee turnover, and we did discuss that a while ago that that's on the rise. We're at about 10% in retention at this time. Next slide. And what's indicative with that we've been very busy in HR and corporately with a number of recruitments, receiving resumes and postings. So you can see those numbers are on the rise, as well as the number of interviews are a lot higher this year than they were last year. So those are some metrics just to share with council to give you a landscape of what's happening in HR and across the corporation with our people. Next slide. Oh, go ahead, CAO Webster.
Thank you, Michelle. I'll go take the reins again, if that's okay. Unless you want to walk through the overall budget, but we're on. We can put that slide up, and we did acknowledging COVID impacts, recovery, that the direction that was provided this year for a 0% budget. It was a tough challenge. It was met by all departments on an equal basis. We could go to the next slide. The only adjustment in our area is with respects to steps and benefits of 2%. You can see that line item in salaries and benefits. So we try to lead by example. All departments have been very cognizant of maintaining service levels with very modest increases. I just do want to acknowledge, though, providing zero budgets is not sustainable. And this is the second year we have done it. And I commend council for their leadership. I commend our staff team. And we're certainly not going to come out of the gate in 23 and beyond and be in double digits. But I think It's always healthy to keep your base programs not at zero, but actually aligned with inflation. And I think there is some forewarning for 23. And currently right now, I think we are seeing some inflationary pressures, primarily related to COVID and the supply chain and labor issues. And we're going to have to monitor those closely in the coming year, and as we prepare for the next term of council, if you can believe it. So that's the high level overview. Again, not much moving in this area, but we're open for any kind of questions from an operations perspective that council may have.
Questions for Mr. Webster? I'm not seeing hands at this time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have to also say hello to Ms. Sanderson. We do miss seeing our #1 fan in the chamber for the many years, and we're hopeful that we not only get council back into the chamber in 2022, but we also start reintroducing some members of the public as well. There's one capital project for our area, and it's related to, there's this sort of split by branch, market review. And I've talked to my other colleagues, primarily in the N6, about this. And market review is something that we all undertake. And it's almost, we just implemented ours, as a matter of fact, because there was a delay. And one of the things I'm going to propose to our staff team is that we take a look at an approach that may have one market review each term of council. I think right now we're on a 3-year cycle, and I think it would be healthy to have a market review at least every term of council. And so this, while the budget has identified the expenditure as a 2022, I think what the plan would be is that we will take a look, and hopefully the fact that we've just adjusted over 50 positions and 7 job categories to market, the impact of a review will be mitigated for moving forward. And that's the whole intention. If you provide COLAs that are reasonable, and you do fairly regular market reviews. So I think the intention would be that we would undertake the review in later this year, in the calendar year, fiscal year of 2022. And we would look at implementation impacts over the 23-24 impact period. And then I would suggest then that the next review would go to the following term of council, if I may. So that's the one budget that's in here. And if any councillor has any questions regard to this, we're prepared to speak to it.
Are there questions for Mr. Webster? Councillor Foster, and then no, I did see it. Councillor Crum. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and not a question as much as just a comment. I'm glad to hear that there may be some movement in how we're going to go forward with these market reviews. Again, I like to think I'm a simple guy, and I look at things maybe a little different than some others, but it does seem to me that spending $50,000 on a consultant to decide if we need to, how our market review is going to happen every couple of 3 years, it seems like there must be a better way. So it seems to me that what the CAO just spoke about is certainly a step in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, I could speak to that a little bit as well. And the municipalities are generally using the same consultant, and the councillor is quite correct. It sort of seems a little redundant. And the comparators. I sit on the board for the Ontario Municipal Administrators Association, which is a fancy word for the CAOs or city managers in Ontario. And they're looking at establishing a central repository of all salaries. All salaries are publicly available and publicly disclosed. And what that would allow is a more cost-effective means of ensuring that you're on a market adjusted base with your positions. And so we're looking towards moving towards that in the future. And as I said, I personally like the approach about once each council term. And if we have that central repository, you know, we could put those dollars instead of towards consultant fees, but towards programs and services. And that's obviously our key goal.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Councillor Crone, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to staff. I think, you know, Councillor Foster raises a good point. You know, if we can find ways to be a little more efficient, I think that's always welcome. No one likes to enrich a consultant unless you're the consultant being enriched. But I will tell you that retaining, once you have a good staff member, retaining them is far cheaper than replacing them. So I really do encourage the market reviews. I think there's two key elements to a functioning organization, and that's good communication and having good people. And if you have good people, the good communication usually follows. So hanging on to them is so important and critical. So I congratulate you on keeping this process going. I think it's very important to making sure we have the right people and that we're paying them fairly. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? I'm not seeing any at this time. Mr. Webster, do you have any?
No, Madam Mayor, I think we're starting to move along. I think we have the council section now to review, and we also have a council session planned for later today. But I think following that, Treasurer Marshall will walk us through if there's any items that we've discussed that need further consideration, and we would have an opportunity. So I'll pass it back to Treasurer Marshall, as I believe we're moving into the council budget session for the next area.
Before you do that, I would like to pass it to Madam Clerk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, apologies. I just wanted to make sure that the resolution was placed before you. So we have crafted a resolution based off the presentation that was just provided.
Thank you. Be it resolved that the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer 2022 proposed business plan and budget review be received, and that the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer 2022 proposed tax supported operating budget be approved in principle, and that the 2022 new capital program for the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer be approved in principle as follows. And we see that at the bottom in the chart. 22001 salary and benefit fairness review, and that's $50,000. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Morton and Councillor Crone. Seeing no questions, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Madam Mayor, the CAO was correct. Our next budget that we will be reviewing is the Mayor and Council budget. That is, the main budget is on page 11 of your binder, or page 9 if you're following electronically. There's also supplemental information that was provided through addendum, and it's addendum 4, pages 1 to 24. I may suggest that we start off with the main part of the Mayor and Council budget, and then go to the community initiatives after that part.
Thank you very much. We have in front of us now the Mayor and Council.
So if we can, I can summarize this rather quickly, as the only thing that really has changed in the Mayor and Council budget on the main part is an increase in the benefit costs of about $8,000. Otherwise, the budget remains static, other than the community initiatives that we'll discuss later.
Thank you.
Happy to answer.
Questions for Mr. Marshall? I'm not seeing any at this time. I'm not seeing any at this time. Do we have a resolution that we can move with this, please?
Madam Mayor, maybe we could now step through the community initiatives, and then we could combine the resolution into one after.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
So on your addendum, which is addendum 4, pages 1 to 24, there is a summary of the requests for community initiatives. There was a subcommittee meeting that took place, and Madam Mayor, you chaired that meeting. So we had Councillor Foster involved as well. So we could go through those the changes or the program if you'd like. I'm not sure if you have any comments or Councillor Foster has any comments as well before we go through.
Councillor Foster, do you have comments this time?
Thanks, Madam Mayor, and I do. I guess I can just quickly go through this as a bit of a summary from the subcommittee meeting that we had. I was busy making notes, and I received some information from Valadima also to help me out here. So I think I've got some things to go through. I suggest that we I'll go through them, and then we can ask specific questions afterwards if that works, rather than stopping every time. So Madam Mayor, yourself, myself, Valadima and Warren met to kind of do a bit of a summary and have a look at these initiatives. So as a bit of a summary for the committee groups appointed by council, the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee did increase their funding for this year, and of course we saw heard a little bit of information about that today. The consensus of our group was that it was a fair increase, and that we could work that through the capital reserve, and hopefully the in-person art show could be held this year, and if so, then of course we can confirm that budget going forward. All other groups requested the same as they had in previous years, so that was fairly constant. When we look at the working groups, the Road Watch group was looking for a little bit more, and I believe Councillor Morton can speak to that a little bit afterwards. I'll continue to go through. Councillor Morton, we'll catch you at the end. The Broadband Working Group was looking for an additional $500 on top of their budget, and that was mentioned as a telecom summit that was coming up. So we thought that that was a reasonable increase as we went through it. The Santa Claus Parade and Farmers Market, again, was consistent with previous years. When we come to the community groups, the River Drive Park group had removed their request as they still have unused funds due to COVID, but it was our consensus to keep that the same as it had been in previous years. I guess to put it simply, we didn't want to have confusion going forward. So, next year we'd be looking at it wondering why nothing had happened the year before. So, and that can be reimbursed if required. The Holland Landing Community Group had asked for an increase to $2,600 from $2,000. The consensus was to remain constant at the $2,000 as before. And if events were able to be held, COVID has kind of put a twist into everybody's business. So if events were able to be held, of course, we could certainly look at that, those increases as we go forward. The Queensville Sharon Group and North Union Group, again, were consistent with previous years. The Car Show Group had requested $3,000 from $2,000, and you may remember that last year, I believe it was capped at $2,000 because basically there was nothing happening. If we go back a little bit further, they had asked for the increase to $3,000, I believe in 2020, and at that time we had said yes. For now, the consensus was that we again would stay constant at the $2,000. And if those events are able to be held, we could certainly look at this again in the future. We had a presentation earlier from Roots Connecting Communities, and that was an increase of $2,500. As you saw in the presentation and the numbers that they were able to provide us, It was our consensus that this was a group that was working well, especially through the COVID situation that we've had, and we thought this was a very good value. So we thought that increase was fine. The Smart Commute was a little bit different. They had withdrawn their request about mid-November. And we thought that we would use that budget to top up the contingency fund and other requests, and that kind of falls back to some of the things that we talked about that we may have to look at in the future if it works, if things happen. So I think we can expect some communications going forward from the Smart Commute people with some new initiatives in 2022. So again, we can deal with that as we go forward. The agricultural, the East Gwillimbury agricultural, there's no specific group with this one. If everybody remembers, that's the one we had talked about many times before that had I think started with the Sutton Fair many years ago. So we have no specific group for that funding, and I think it was $750, I believe. So we have no specific group for that, but we really thought we needed to look forward and see if there was something along the agricultural way that maybe we could support, and we're looking for information on how to move that one forward. I had mentioned at the time that during our meeting that the International Plowmen's Association does have local groups, and I know that York Region does something along that line. It's not very well known, so we might be able to look into something there as we go forward. The York Region Games had no they had no formal budget request because they still have funds left over from 2022, and again we decided to hold that one consistent to avoid confusion going forward. So that money can be put back into the contingency fund, hopefully. The only other one we had to mention was the Canada Day celebration, the town part of it. We're looking at a $5,000 increase this year in the cost for fireworks. And I believe that was pretty much what we went over, Madam Mayor. If there are any questions going forward, we can certainly try to answer, and Warren and Val are with us to assist.
Thank you for that summary. Councillor Morton had a question partway through.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I apologize for missing the meeting that you had. But the road watch, I've had a number of people that are getting in touch with me wanting to know what it's really all about. And we did have a meeting before COVID even started, and people were still, I think they would have started more and had more time to do it if COVID hadn't started. But a lot of the people are concerned about the aggressive driving. And we need to get the information out to everybody and get, I guess, we can advertise it. We can send things out to all the residents, put them out into the different businesses that we have around East Gwillimbury, but we will have to have an increase in the stuff, the papers and that we get out to them. So that's why when I talked about to different people that they wanted meetings and everything else, that we could move ahead with the increase in what we had before COVID hit us.
Thank you very much. Questions for Councillor Morton? Comments? I agree with you. The number of complaints that we receive, they're totaled somewhat centrally from the office here. And there are a lot of people who are home and are seeing neighbors that have their driving way too fast in residential areas. And it's people that they know. And that's very unfortunate. It's not commercial vehicles that are passing through particularly, but it is more on our neighborhood streets. I'm wondering if we could also be in touch with YRP and have some of their traffic folks participate in an initiative with us as well. We're not unique by any means. It's happening in every municipality right across the region, and it's of great concern to our residents for sure. Councillor Morton and then Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have had a conversation with some of the members from YRP, and they are more than willing to come out to some of the meetings that we will have, but we will have to, they won't come out for nothing. They will have to have, I guess, a little bit to cover gas and things like that, but I think that they would be more than happy to do that as well. So
perhaps we should be sending a letter from council requesting, and maybe they'll waive their fees and come out and assist us with this. I know that there'll be a list of other requests to them as well, but if we can get on the list, I think that's really important.
And we will do that, Madam Mayor, once we're able to get going into the new year.
Thank you. I did see another hand now. Councillor Roy DeClemente, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just curious, we haven't had a lot of communication at council from this committee. How many people are on this committee? I'm not sure if I even remember passing the bylaw appointing them. Do they meet regularly? Do we have minutes from them?
Madam Mayor, thank Councillor Roy DeClemente. A lot of the people that were mothers and everything else, and during the COVID, they weren't coming out for anything. So we had, and one of our people were injured at the time. So he never came back at that point, but he is still willing to work again. And so then once we move ahead into the new year, we will be getting back on board.
Councillor Morton, is it the excuse me, is it the intent to advertise for more people, new people on that committee?
Yes, it is, Madam Mayor, and that will be going out very shortly as well.
Thank you. Councillor Roy DeClemente, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I just, how many people are on this committee right now?
Right at the moment, there were 4 to start with. And but as I've said, that they have backed off because a lot of them were parents with children, and they were the ones that were really starting out with why are we not doing something about the speeding and everything else. So we will be increasing the numbers.
So we should be advertising and perhaps updating the bylaw if those people are no longer on the committee. We should be updating our information.
Yes, and we will do that.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have representation from right across the municipality? I'm just thinking if there are certain areas that we don't have a representation, then it might be an opportunity even now to get started and find out who might in fact want to sit on this committee.
And that's what I'd like to do, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have a motion for this, please?
Through you, Madam Mayor, just bear with me for a moment. I'm going to pull up the chart and the resolution.
Thank you. Can everyone read that, or would you like me to read it out? It's pretty tiny. Be it resolved that the Office of the Mayor and Council 2022 proposed business plan and budget review be received, and that the Office of the Mayor Council 2022 proposed operating budget be approved in principle, and that the Mayor and Council Office 2022 proposed operating budget for community initiative be approved in principle as follows. Heritage Committee, $2,000. Economic Development Advisory Committee, $2,000. East Gwillimbury Accessibility Advisory Committee, $2,000. Art and Culture Advisory Committee would be $7,000. Environmental Advisory Committee, $2,500. Trails Committee, $1,000. Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Committee, $2,000. There are 4 working groups: Santa Claus Parade, $8,000, Farmers Market, $7,600, Road Watch Committee, $2,000, and Broadband Working Committee, $2,500. Community groups, River Drive Park would be $1,500, North Union Community Group, $1,000, Holland Landing Community Group, $2,000, Queensville Sharon Community Group, $2,000. Community grants, Car Show Group, $2,000. Roots Connecting, $5,000. Smart Commute is blank at this point. Sharon Temple Museum, $40,000. Sharon Temple Canada Day, $3,000. East Gwillimbury Agricultural, $750. And I would highlight that $750, those that are in rural areas, if there is something happening for agricultural promotion. I'm thinking even about 4-H. Perhaps I'll put out the challenge to all members of council to see if there might be young people who may benefit from this grant that we have. Moving forward, East Gwillimbury Gardeners, $1,000. York Region Seniors Games, $600. Chamber of Commerce and Tourism, $8,500. And then we're into other. Canada Day Town Event, $19,000. Music at Civic Square, $8,500. Community Events, $7,300. Committee Contingency, $9,000. Remembrance Day Ceremony, $2,000. Chamber of Commerce Breakfast, $1,225. Volunteer Recognition Ceremony, $4,830. Pancake Breakfast, $1,300. Tapestry of Taste, $12,000. New Year's Eve Family Event, $10,000. Family Day, $2,500. Easter Hikes, $1,500. Halloween Hikes, $2,700. And Nature Day, $3,000. Are there any questions on all of those? I know I went through them fairly quickly. However, I know that all members of council are very much involved with all of these events. So it's not new news today, just a summary. I'm not seeing any questions. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Morton, Councillor Crone, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. We will move along. Madam Clerk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I believe General Manager Marshall is on the call to guide us to the next steps.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we have gone through the full budget submission right now. There are some items that we still need to consider. Mentioning yesterday or on Monday, we had talked about making sure we had breaks. This might be a good opportunity to take a little bit of a break, and then we can go into some of the other items that need to be discussed. For example, the proposal that was tabled by staff on the dedicated 1% increase, like that. So, and some of the addendum packages, if council has any, or committee has any questions on those, we can address them then as well.
So I'm looking at the clock. It's 10:20. Might I suggest we take a 10-minute break and be back here at 10:30 unless someone needs a longer time than that? I'm not seeing that, so we'll take a 10-minute break and be back at 10:30. Thank you very much, Mr. Marshall. Madam Clerk, could you just outline where we are in all this paperwork right now?
Through you,
Please.
Madam Mayor, General Manager Marshall is going to be able to assist us further, but I believe we are now going to be starting to review with the new staffing request for the 2022 budget.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we will be looking at the staffing summary that was provided in the addendum package. You could find that as addendum 5, which is pages 1 to 5 on print copy, pages 39 to 43 following through the website. And if you have an electronic version, it's pages 338 to 342. We'd like to start off with there's three positions that are proposed to be converted in the 2022 budget. And they're here and the details are in your package there. If you have any questions on that, be happy to answer them, and the general managers as well will be available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there questions from members of council? I'm not seeing any at this time. Mr. Marshall, will we go through them individually? What is the suggestion?
If council would like, we can step through them individually, or if there were no questions, we could just move forward with the request for an additional FT.
Okay, I'm just looking to see there are no questions, so your suggestion of moving forward would appear to be correct.
Great, thank you. So, Madam Mayor, this final request is associated with a proposal that staff put through that is not included in the budget currently, and it's associated with a proposal for inclusion of the multi-year funding plan for the recreation facilities. So if the clerk could go to the next slide, yes. So if you recall in our budget presentation on Monday, we put a proposal forward that is currently would have to be added to our budget. We had indicated before that in order to make sure that we have sufficient funding to operate our facilities, we would need to start carving out an additional $233,000 a year for the next 4 years. And associated with that, we also put a proposal in for a new FTE to help with operating our roads and our parks. So the funding source of that would be a dedicated 1% tax increase. And we would also go back and find some, there's some offsets for our part-time salaries that we would use to help fund the total proposal. So I'd be happy to answer any questions with that. And also General Managers Molinari and Karmazin would be available as well if you have any specific questions on the FTE.
Thank you. Questions from members of council? I'm not seeing any questions at this time. Move ahead.
So if there are no questions, then I guess the clerk would have a yes.
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. I have prepared a draft resolution for council's review. Just bear with me for a second. I'm just going to pull it onto the screen.
Are there questions? Councillor Roy DeClemente, go ahead, please.
The Assistant Deputy Fire Chief, I was under the impression that we had already approved that and that it was, this individual's been recruited. So why is it here now?
Through you, Madam Mayor, this is just basically it's a formality, it's paperwork. when it was approved in private session. So this is just to formalize that position. So it's on the public record.
Okay. And then the other individuals or the other positions that are here, with the exception of the Parks and Roads operator, the CSR and the digital and marketing coordinator, those are individuals that are still here, or positions that are already with us. We're just proposing to convert them to FTEs rather than contract. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, yes, that is correct.
Okay. And then finally, for this CIES CPRC hybrid position, I recall that Mr. Molinari, in his winter maintenance report to us earlier this year, noted that due to growth, it would be appropriate for us to be recruiting a roads operator in 2023. I'm just wondering why we're advancing that at this point and looking for a bit more justification from this. Thank you.
So through you, Madam Mayor, maybe I can start, and then maybe General Manager Molinari can provide some supplementary information. This was a table just for council consideration. It was, as you mentioned, Councillor Ray Clemente, it was identified. So staff were just being a bit proactive in terms of we know we're going to need that recruitment, and the demand is required now, but I believe General Manager Molinari was going to try to manage through it when he made his presentation back earlier in the year. But I think it would be tough for him to manage through in 2022. So we've just put this proposal forward because there is the demand there for the additional resource. I don't know if General Manager has any further comments.
Thanks, Warren. Yeah, further to that, that's exactly it. So we are at a point now where growth has created the need for additional resources, but given the budget constraints going forward of a 0%, we were looking to just kind of make do with what we had, and we could, but adding this extra resource certainly gets us in a spot where we were able to have sufficient resources to take care of the winter operation, and in the CPRC section, provide some much needed help for them in the summertime as well. So, I wouldn't say it's absolutely critical, but this is really helpful for us to run an efficient operation. And when you don't have the resources to do that, it means that when you have heavy snow or a heavy operation that you're running, you may not be able to do it as effectively as you would like to. So I think that's the context around it, and we'll leave that with council, but certainly this resource would be very, very welcomed in our operation at this point in time.
Mr. Molinari, how are we handling it now?
Well, through you, Madam Mayor, we have a number of contracted resources and staff resources, but as we add roads and sidewalks to our system, which is happening on a regular basis every year with growth, there's a need to add additional routes, and each of those routes needs to be manned by resources, including equipment and personnel. And so it may mean that we're doubling up on routes in order to make that work. And it means that our timing will not be as quick as what it should be. But as I mentioned, we could make it work, but it's certainly not ideal, and it's not sustainable for the long term. We really do need resources to keep up with growth, and we haven't had an extra resource added into our system for a number of years now.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. Mr. Webster, did you have a comment as well?
I do, Madam Mayor. I think this was a very modest budget year, as we've talked about, with the targeted 0 for base programs. On an annual basis, Mr. Molinari's area does do a report. It noted that our network was growing. Most importantly in this as well, this is the first time we've done a shared resource, and it's an innovative approach. And we are going to have a number of park openings, and our acreages and needs in that area. I believe close to 10 park openings or revamped parks will be scheduled for early next year. And so we thought this was an innovative approach, and always to invest in frontline services is an advisable a thing to do. We had the other element of this 1% related to putting together some operating costs for our significant community facility, the Healthy Active Living Plaza. And so the number in its totality is 1%, which I understand is about, just from talking to Mr. Marshall yesterday, I think it's about, the impact would be about $20 per household. And not to get down to that fine a degree, but I think it's a well-advised investment in our frontline services.
Thank you for all those explanations. Councillor Roy DeClemente, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Through you to staff, how long do you anticipate that you will be able to use this position as a hybrid position until you need to convert it into 2 FTEs?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I suspect that we may look at having this type of position on a go-forward basis. It just makes sense to have staff that work in winter for roads and work in parks for the summertime. So I can see this type of position actually being expanded potentially in the future, whereby we may even take some of our existing contract staff and instead of there being turnover from year to year and going through the administration and retraining associated with that, there's likely opportunity to be able to take some of those existing staff that we have and turn them into FTEs and build a better workforce as a result. So I don't think that this type of position is going to be short term. I think we'll probably be doing more of it over time.
Thank you. Other questions? I'm not seeing any. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Carruthers, Councillor Persichini. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Councillor Foster.
Madam Mayor, I was maybe asleep at the switch there a little bit. I did mention, I don't know if this is the proper time to bring it up, but I did mention during our first day of budget deliberations that I wanted to have a bit of a discussion regarding the public safety initiative that was put forward by a previous council, maybe a couple of councils ago, to increase the number of the staffing number of our full-time firefighters. I had mentioned it at the time and some other times during council, some other discussions that we had. I think it's important that we push this one through. It was decided at the time by council and members of the emergency services that that number of 20, putting 5 firefighters on each of the 4 platoons, was kind of where we felt comfortable. Both, again, I was with emergency services at that time, and I believe council felt comfortable with it at the time. I stand to be corrected here, but I believe that 2 firefighters would represent about 1% on our budget. And I'd just like to hear from my colleagues. I think that one should be pushed forward, whether it be 2 this year or 1 this year and 1 the next year to get that completed to that number of 20. And let's not be fooled. That doesn't mean that there's going to be 5 firefighters on the truck 24/7. You've got holidays and sick time and all that stuff that goes with it. But I think that increase in numbers certainly wouldn't hurt us. And I think we need to have that conversation. I'll leave it to you, Madam Mayor, to carry that one forward.
Thank you. Councillor Morton, go ahead, please. You're muted.
I have to agree with Councillor Foster because, I mean, my brothers were on the fire department for a number of years. And I know that what they went if there was not enough people there. And I think that 2 more is not going to make a big difference to us, but it certainly is a safety hazard. And for a lot of areas that they have to attend. And I think for 2 people that it's something that we should really look after.
Thank you very much. Other comments, questions? Councillor Crothers, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So this is, we're not going with the chief's recommendation. We are asking for something over and above what the chief thinks he needs to staff his department. Is that what my colleagues are asking for? I'm just a little surprised if the chief thinks it's safe the way it is, why we would want to add more staff to his department when he's not asking for that. So I'm just want some clarification from my colleagues. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll start with Councillor Foster and then go to Councillor Morton in the same order that they spoke previous. Go ahead.
Again, I'm not sure what more I can say. Again, this was something that was put forward by a previous council and the fire department administration of the day to kind of drive toward that number of 5 per platoon. It gives you certainly more of an opportunity to have 3 or 4 people on that truck more often than we certainly do now. I think it's also worth saying that I've had the opportunity to have healthy discussions both with the CAO and our administration with emergency services. And we also realize that recruitment and retention of our paid on-call staff is getting more difficult every day with the changes in society. And I'm very glad to see that, you know, we're moving towards maybe some different approaches to look for some of that staff. So, you know, I think we're looking at staffing issues, you know, possibly on both sides. And that's just the cost of doing business with a composite department. So to me, to get back to that, you know, a drive for 5, as it was called at one time, I think it's a pertinent thing to do. Again, Madam Mayor, I'm not so sure the year that initiative was put forward. I'm thinking it was supposed to be completed in 2017 or 2018. I could stand corrected on that, but I'm not sure what more I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments, questions?
If I may respond.
Councillor Crothers, go ahead, and then Mr. Webster, our CAO, has his hand up. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm all for safety first and all for getting new firefighters. I just think that we have a fire chief who we've hired to make recommendations in this regard. And I personally wouldn't know if we need 1, 2, 3, or 5 more firefighters. I think that's something that I rely on our staff to let us know. I'm wondering if it's something that we could look at mid-year when we do our mid-year review, if that's something we could wait until then to take a look at. Thanks.
Mr. Webster, and then Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Madam Mayor, I'll defer to Councillor Roy DeClemente, please.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I've got a bit of history with this, not only because I sat on that council that approved that multi-year plan, but I'm also chair of emergency services at this point and have worked very closely with the leadership in emergency services. When that multi-year funding plan was approved, it was intended to try and address the anticipated growth in the call volume that we were going to see with the amount of new residents and new homes that were being built, and it required us to have a bit of a crystal ball. And it seems to us, or it seems to me anyway, and certainly I'm sure the chief can support this with his data, and I think he did earlier in the budget process, call volume has not spiked. And so if we don't have a demand for those services, I don't see the need to continue to push. Certainly we have that plan. We know where we want to end up in the long run, but right now there is no need. Staff have not told us that there is an issue with respect to staffing levels, and certainly the call volume doesn't suggest to me that there is a demand for that service to the same extent. Secondly, we have also undertaken and given the chief direction to use some grant money to undertake a review in partnership with the town of Georgina. I would hesitate strongly for us to be adding resources to an area where we may not need to add resources should that review show us something differently. And so from my perspective, I do not see the need to be adding at this time, at this point in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Foster, go ahead.
Again, not looking to get down in the weeds here, but I use that exact argument, and we have just added some administration staffing. So that one doesn't sit well with me, but I'm here with my colleagues.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Councillor Crone, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've been listening intently to both sides of this conversation, and I think there's merit in looking at this further. You know, certainly when Mr. Councillor Foster talks about you know, the fire department, I listen. I also listen to our chief. So I would hate to see us lose this opportunity to miss out of possibly getting more men and women on our trucks. But I'm mindful of our budget position as well. So I think the comment was made earlier, it might have been by Councillor Carruthers, that we at a minimum, and maybe the chief would like to chime in on this as well, but at a minimum, I would like to see us revisit, you know, partway into the year. I know our budget, we run you know, I will say a very conservative budget, and you know, as we get into the year, a few months in, we might find that we have a little more wiggle room in our budget to accommodate this. So I would hate to say no flat out to this request to add 2 more folks to the team. Like to hear others, but I think at a minimum we should at least commit to revisiting adding 2 more folks to our firefighter team, and not just say no outright. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Webster, did you have comments?
I do, Madam Mayor. I can provide a little bit of perspective, and the comments provided up by all councillors are actually quite correct. So just to roll back in time, I guess it was even prior to 2010, there was a small move towards full-time suppression firefighters, and we hired 2. One is still with us, and one retired. Following the Dunsmuir tragedy, that was clearly a community game changer. There was a deep analysis done, an inquest, and the decision was made by council. We looked at contracting out to other full-time services, and the decision at that time was a multi-year move to a full-time complement with a new station to be built in Queensville, which was. And Councillor Foster is correct. I believe that my recollection is by about the 2017-18 timeframe, we were to be in a position of 20 full-time suppression firefighters in that facility. The leadership command in emergency services has actually hired 20 individuals. A tactful decision was made a few budgets back, instead of a suppression firefighter, to invest in another line of safety, being inspection. And actually the assistant deputy fire chief was not part of the original 20. So It leaves us still, with regards to a full station, too short at this point in time. This year's budget, council provided a direction for base programs to be zero, and all departments accomplished that and contributed. I'll let the chief, or will request that Chief Mackenzie speak directly to it, but he certainly has not indicated at any time to me that the community is in an unsafe position because we do not have these final two positions, two suppression firefighters. I am supportive of council taking a look at the mid-year point. I think that could be well advised. As a matter of fact, a lot of times in the past, we make the hire for a new firefighter in the final elements of the year to assist with the funding. And it would be a position that if we're in a financial position and council does decide in June to move forward with another suppression firefighter, would allow us to recruit, train, and have another individual on board in this fiscal year. And I would also say that it would give us a chance to review our financial position and where we are with respect to COVID management, and whether or not the resources would be more readily available at that time for such an investment. So maybe I could pass it over to Chief Mackenzie to speak to specifically to why the position wasn't brought forward as part of our base budget request this year.
Thank you, Tom, and through you to council. Great discussion and some good facts that have come out of the past. To Councillor Foster's point, the drive for 5/20, we're still driving. We're just in a pause period. And of note, it wasn't just about suppression firefighters. It was also, as the CEO mentioned, about enhancing the inspection portfolio. And now we have 3 inspectors, but we also hired a community safety educator in there as well, because when we look at those 3 lines of defense, we need to supplement that as well. We sat down early in this budget process with SMT, and in order to to strike a balance with the other departments and to honor the wishes of the council of a 0% budget, I recommended that we push it out. We don't eliminate it. We don't cross it out. We're still going to drive. And as Councillor Di Clemente mentioned, we're about to go through a service delivery review with the eye on combining the 2 departments. So that will certainly be a factor. Staffing will be a factor in that as well. So that was the sort of the genesis behind my recommendation of pushing it out. What I would like to say is that staffing levels within ECSS are not critical. We're not at a red alert phase. We have a consistent quality response from our paid on call staff that are supplementing the full-time brigade at this time. So public safety, firefighter safety, in my opinion right now, is not an issue. In fact, I'm sitting in my office at Station 24 here in Hall Landing. There was a page out for a medical call just after 10. And, I can look out my window here and I see, the truck roll with 4 paid on call firefighters. So I'm confident in saying that staffing at this point is not an issue. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Other questions for the chief? I have one, Chief. When is the Georgina review expected to conclude?
Well, we applied in October. We won't understand if we get the funding until January, and then we have an 8-month window to complete the work. So I'm thinking October, November of 2022.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, comments? I'm not seeing any. Madam Clerk?
Through you, Madam Mayor, through various discussions, I have formulated a resolution for council's consideration with respect to next steps. So I'm just going to put that before you.
Be it resolved that the Budget Committee recommend that the Emergency Services multi-year funding plan for suppression firefighters, specifically with respect to 2 additional firefighters, be reviewed at mid-year. Any questions on that? Could I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Webster.
I think it would be helpful if we put the year in. Okay, so just to make sure that it's clear that it's mid-year 2022.
Thank you. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Carruthers, Councillor Persicini. Any questions, comments on the resolution?
I'll jump on now. Neither did I. It's a Zoom call, that's why.
Aha, there we go. It is a Zoom call. Okay, all those in favor? Put your hands up for me, please. Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much. Chief, will be looking forward to having you come back and speak about this at a later date. It doesn't have to be mid-year. Whenever it's there are opportunities, don't hesitate to bring it forward to members of council. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, we have a couple of items left, I believe. Mr. Marshall, go ahead.
So through you, Madam Mayor, there were a couple of addendums that were handed out, and I don't know if anyone, any members of the committee have any questions regarding those addendums. But after that, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer. If not, I believe we have completed the review of the 2022 budget.
Thank you. Councillor Roy DeClemente, go ahead, please.
Will we be reviewing the reserve schedule?
Through you, Madam Mayor. If yes, we can. If we would like, we can go through that now. If you'd like. If there's any questions regarding the reserve schedule.
I believe we would like. Thank you. Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
So the reserve schedule we've prepared is based on commitments that have been approved through the 2021 budget and the proposed commitments under the 2022 budget that's been tabled. So this brings an estimate of what funding would be available in each of the reserves. So if there are any specific questions on reserves, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you very much. Questions? Councillor Carruthers, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just had a comment. We don't need an answer today, but I know a number of municipalities are putting in a climate change reserve for when things come up throughout the year where money is needed to put something in place to help mitigate against climate change. We've seen that a few times this year. First of all, when the Environment Committee wanted to hire a net zero consultant, we need to come up with a little bit of money for that. We've had a number of things that were added to the help. I can also see it when we want to, perhaps look at something like environmentally friendly fireworks, for instance. But I'm wondering if at some point in the future, we could look at adding a reserve where we could be accessing money for things such as that. And perhaps it could come out of something like end of year surplus, that sort of thing. I'm not sure what other municipalities are doing, but I know a number of other municipalities are starting to build up a reserve for those type of issues that we're going to see more and more of.
Mr. Marshall, comment?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, definitely a reserve could be set up. There would have to be a bylaw that would be put through to set it up. There are, we do have reserves that we could use for that type of funding right now, but definitely a dedicated reserve could be set up if it's council's wish.
I'm wondering if we get this budget concluded and then spend some time in the next 6 months, 8 months. The whole area of that seems to be moving rather quickly and changing a fair bit. And I'm wondering if we waited until other municipalities, as Councillor Crothers has indicated, are setting something up. Let's have a look and see exactly what it is that they set up, and perhaps bring it back at mid-year. I know we usually have a little mid-year review at that point. Sometimes we have needs and no money, and other times we have money and the needs have not been there. And we've talked about the changes that happen in our community and other communities in 6 months is always a challenge for us, I think.
I'm happy to wait until mid-year. I just think that, like you said, things happen quickly, and we're going to see more of this. And we saw with the help sustainability options that were added on, that sometimes a little money spent up front nets long-term savings for our residents. So I just want to make sure that we're able to do that. So I'm happy to reconsider this at mid-year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Marshall, could you put that in your notebook that mid-year we would be looking at this as well? Thank you very much. Other questions, comments? I'm not seeing anything at this time. Madam Clerk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if it is Council's wish, this can be incorporated into a direct resolution. So I can put the continuity schedule on the screen before you.
Thank you. Councillor Roy DeClemente, you had a question. Does it relate directly to this, or will we deal with this and then go back to you?
So the resolution, I don't think, reflects what Councillor Carruthers was looking for, which was the establishment that we consider establishing a climate change reserve, or to a reserve to address environmental initiatives related to climate change emergencies or so on. The other piece of it was that I did want to sort of have a sort of a high level conversation about some of our reserve balances, and making sure that our capital asset renewal and replacement conversation is had. We usually have this conversation, we wring our hands, and then we move on. And I'd still like to continue to have that conversation. So, for example, in the space of the library, we're funding our new materials budget is coming from the library. We're pulling about $95,000, but we're only contributing $50,000. So long term, our reserve balance is going to be in a deficit, and we're going to be questioning why that is. And so it's happening not just in the library, just use as an example, and there's other areas as well. And I just want us to be mindful of that and address that where we can. Thank you.
Are you suggesting that that we include that as part of our mid-year, or sooner than that, or today?
It's in front of us today. It's timely for today. I'll use the capital fund for our roads. That's projected to be at a $1.1 million deficit. Is there a plan to bring that into the positive? These are the sorts of conversations that I think we need to have in order to maintain our fiscal position in the long term. Obviously, we've got some healthy but reserve balances in other areas, but across individual programs, we might not. And so we need to be mindful of that.
Mr. Marshall, go ahead, please.
So through you, Madam Mayor, there's actually a short-term and a long-term strategy that has to occur, and that we're undertaking right now is for these type of reserves. So in particular in the tax-supported reserves, I mentioned earlier that there's still a bit of work to be done in terms of making sure we provide enough funding to the reserves so that we have funding available to make sure we can replace our assets when they're completed. So in the short term, when we have our annual surplus review, we make sure that we start topping up those reserves that look like they're coming closer to being depleted. Longer term, we have to have a strategy in place to make sure that we have consistent annual contributions to those reserves to make sure that they're steady longer term. So that our 10-year plan helps us with that. So we've established that. And so we've been looking at at that reserve, reserves in terms of our 10-year plan. As well, we're in the process of doing an asset management strategy, which will be done in 2024, which identifies the needs for funding for all of our assets. So once that is in place, we can start developing a long-term overarching strategy to make sure our reserves are in place. So it's kind of two-pronged, and we are aware that there are some reserves that are getting more pressure than others, and we're making sure in the short term we can top those up.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Roy DiClemente, go ahead.
Thank you. I guess where I'm seeing some of these reserve balances being depleted, and I don't hear a plan at this point to address them. Right now, we're talking about an asset renewal and replacement strategy that will be done in 2024. Meanwhile, our park structure reserve is having a $235,000 draw and 0 contributions.
Thank you. Mr. Webster, go ahead, please.
I support the councillor's opinions on this and observations. I think while our overall reserve balances are very buoyant, there's some specific ones that are problematic. I do look, though, to the fact that we continue to have a very positive financial position. I'll remind council that last year we had I believe it was close to a $10 million surplus, and that certainly helps in assisting and driving reserves forward. Madam Mayor, I believe this topic needs more discussion. I don't know if it's directly related to the tax rate and budget for this year, but I would propose that we're looking for workshop topics. We have our first workshop of 2022 planned, which is regarding economic development strategy discussion and an IT strategy update. We do have a February slot, and I'm wondering if that would be an appropriate time to have a deeper dive by staff and council into our reserves, where they're at, where they're going, and the overall strategic position. So I would offer that up as a position that we would take the next 90 days and allow for our finance team to put together a fulsome presentation and discussion to show where our strategic position is moving forward with regards to these reserves, particularly the ones which have some problematic balances at this point.
Councillor Roy DiClemente.
Thank you.
I believe that means yes, we will take you up on the offer of February. Mr. Marshall, did you have anything else at this time?
Madam Mayor, I had nothing further.
Thank you. I think it is a very important discussion that we all need to have. We need to all be on the same page. And I don't know that we have urgency prior to the end of 2021. I think that February, early in the season in 2022 is an opportunity for staff to dive into it a little deeper, but also for all of us to have an opportunity to take a look at those areas that we may feel need some attention. So I guess I should have a mover and a seconder on this, just to Councillor Crothers, Councillor Roy DiClemente, that we move to some discussions in February. Be it resolved that the 2021-22 uncommitted reserve schedule be received, and that the Budget Committee requests that a climate change reserve be established and that an update be provided at mid-year 2022, and that Budget Committee requests that a council education workshop be held in February 2022 to provide an update regarding the town reserves. I'm wondering if that climate change reserve should follow after the committee, the education workshop, as opposed to now. Just a comment. I'm wondering if that that we might want to delve a little deeper into it. Councillor Roy DeClemente, go ahead.
How about we take that last clause and say that a council workshop be held in February 2022 to provide an update regarding the town reserves, the consideration for a climate change reserve, as well as a surplus management policy. And I think that would help us, you know, if we're going to see another year where we've got a $10 million surplus, then it behooves us to make sure that we're managing that appropriately. And then it will give us the ability to address Councillor Carruthers' suggestion, as well as my concerns about tax rate supported reserve balances.
Thank you. We made a little change here, moved by Councillor Carruthers and seconded by Councillor Roy DeClemente. Councillor Carruthers, go ahead, please.
I preferred it the way it was written before. I think this weakens it.
Any other comments? Councillor Carruthers, will you still move this, or should I be looking for a mover of this in front of us?
I'm wondering if we can go back to the way that it was. The original motion.
Just bear with me for one moment, please.
Thank you. Okay, we have this here. If this isn't what people want, then we'll take another go at it. Moved by Councillor Carruthers, seconded by Councillor Roy DeClemente. Be it resolved that the 2021-2022 uncommitted reserve schedule be received, and that the Budget Committee requests that a climate change reserve be established and then an update be provided at mid-year 2022, and that Budget Committee request that a council education workshop be held in February 2022 to provide an update regarding the town reserves and consideration for surplus management policy for ACEs. Any questions on this? Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you. I don't have a philosophical issue with establishing a climate change reserve. I think it's a good idea, but we don't have any parameters around how it's funded, what it's to be used for, and so on. And I don't know if obviously it's Budget Committee that's requesting it, but I don't know if we want to put some more parameters around that, setting it up at this point. I'd be happy to hear from staff on this matter.
Thank you. Mr. Webster?
Madam Mayor, my read of this would be that the workshop could possibly include a discussion of other reserves that could be considered. It would allow as well for us to take a look at some of the other municipal best practices regarding this, and to see if in fact a climate change reserve or an environmental reserve or many other types of reserves are more commonplace in other municipalities. So I think it could be a part of discussion of the workshop. Maybe what could happen here is that the two colors that we're looking at could be reversed, and possibly the one I'm looking at in blue could have a discussion of town reserves, and that would include other reserves for consideration. I don't know if that's helpful or hinders the discussion.
Thank you.
I think that gets us where we need to be, because if we have the workshop in February, including the climate change reserve, and then we have an update at the mid-year about how that's going, I think that makes sense. Thank you.
Other comments, questions?
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, for clarity, is the intent to remove this section?
I was suggesting maybe the ordering, if it would be, they would still be in there, but just in chronological order, February lies before June. And so we would have the workshop in February, which will have a discussion of all existing and potential reserves. And that subject to the mid-year and our year-end financial report, we could consider climate change reserve and or others that are considered by council at the February workshop as well.
There's a little different wording that you've suggested, Mr. Webster, consider as opposed to request on the yellow one.
I think we're requesting that it be considered. Not the budget committee that's considering.
I'm not sure if the intent has changed here. My understanding was that the budget committee consider establishing a climate change reserve, and as opposed to request that staff. I may be wrong, Councillor Crothers.
Well, I don't think the budget committee is meeting again, so it's not gonna be the budget committee. So coming out of this committee, we're requesting that someone else do this, right? So whether we're requesting staff or we want it to come back to council, but we don't want it to be the budget committee that's establishing it, because the budget committee does meet again for another year, if I'm not mistaken.
It can be called later, but it's unusual for sure.
Yeah.
Other comments from council members? Councillor Roy DeClemente, go ahead, please.
I think it's that the town would, or maybe budget committee is requesting that council consider establishing a climate change reserve. It's a recommendation from this committee to council, so that council can ratify that decision. And then in the blue portion of the resolution, we've got consideration twice. So we'll want to remove one of those. I think we only want to think about it once, not twice. Thanks.
Okay, let me read this out again. Once we get this. The Budget Committee requests that a council education workshop be held in February 2022 to provide an update regarding the town reserves, including other reserves for consideration and a surplus management policy. And that Budget Committee requests that council consider establishing a climate change reserve, and that an update be provided at mid-year 2022. Is that what members of council had intended? This is moved by Councillor Crothers, seconded by Councillor Roy DeClemente. Seeing no questions, all those in favor? Hands up. There we go. Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much. Mr. Marshall.
So, Madam Mayor, I think that concludes our budget discussions on the 2022 budget.
Thank you very much. I'm just looking here. Madam Clerk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the next item is F, which is next budget committee meetings. And it's just an advisement that there is a placeholder on the agenda for the 7th for any type of continuation.
Thank you.
And following that is item G, which is the adjournment of the Budget Committee meeting.
Thank you. So we'll, I have a mover and a seconder for F to start with.
Madam Mayor, question.
Go ahead, please.
Usually during budget process, we have a pause, and our wonderful treasurer puts up a slide that tells us where we are as far as tax levy and so on. I think we've approved a couple of things that do impact that direction to provide a zero. So I'm just wondering where we're sitting at this point.
So through you, Madam Mayor, we were at zero, and an additional 1% was approved for dedicated for the contributions towards the operations of the Health and Active Living Plaza, and for a portion of it for the additional staff for roads and parks operations. So we're standing at a 1% increase right now.
So I think to kind of conclude this, it seems to me that if we're at a 1% and we've concluded all of the departmental reviews and the capital budget, then we don't have a need to have another budget committee meeting. That we would simply be referring all of this to a council meeting for ratification. Does that require a resolution?
Some nods, but I'm not seeing all nods. Is that the intent of members of council?
I believe that's correct, Madam Mayor, unless there's further deliberations, but I think the tax rate has been recommended. The projects and capital programs have been adopted, so this would now proceed to the December 14th council for adoption. I think that's the plan, the evening council session.
Just preparing a resolution here now.
Through you, Madam Mayor, so I have crafted a resolution to reflect the advisement of Councillor Roy DeClemente in terms of final ratification.
Thank you. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Persuccini and seconder, Councillor Crone. Be it resolved that Budget Committee refer all Budget Committee recommendations to the evening council meeting being held on December 14th, 2021 for final ratification. Any questions on this motion? All those in favor? That carried. And with that, we have an adjournment at 11:32, moved by Councillor Crothers, seconded by Councillor Roy DeClemente. All those in favor? And that's carried. Madam Clerk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to advise council that there is a planned special council meeting following the Budget Committee. There has been a separate meeting invite for councillors to join that particular meeting, and we would need some time to move between the two meetings, if that's okay.
Mr. Webster, go ahead, please.
Madam Mayor, we have a scoped council session, 2 important items to discuss. I believe the one has been primarily discussed at Budget Committee regarding the help move forward with regards to environmental and sustainability initiatives. It's the resolution, more so the report's been updated, and the resolution to be adopted by council in public session. And we have another matter for consideration. I don't feel they'll take that long, so I was suggesting maybe a short recess and to reconvene under the new meeting at 11:45 and possibly target towards a noon or shortly thereafter conclusion.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, does that give staff enough time to adjust to this special meeting of council?
Absolutely. Just a reminder, make sure that you are joining the special committee meeting because we are coming out of the budget committee invitation.
So we need we need a motion to the continuation of the budget meeting.
Through you,
Correct?
Madam Mayor. No, that's we are adjourning the budget committee meeting completely. And at 11:45, we are convening a special council meeting.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Persicini, Councillor Crone. All those in favor? And that's carried. We'll see you in a few minutes. Thank you.